My name is Radio B. I'm with Here RVA Liner Notes. Thank you for having me. You know, it wasn't like you couldn't just wake up one day and like download a beat from YouTube and turn on a mic in your living room and make a SoundCloud and an IG, and then you're an artist and you're in people's inboxes promoting yourself as a rapper like tomorrow.
Right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you had to write something, you had to learn it, and then you had to go out into public, whether it was a football game or cafeteria or barbershop or open mic or whatever it was, but you had to go out somewhere and rap, and people had to like grade you one way or another. It could be very hostile environment, or it could be, you know, most times it was hostile, you know, like not hostile, but not like, you know, not like warm and open. Like it's like one of those things like you rap or you rap. Well, rap then.
It's
you know,
it's
like,
yes
you know,
or no.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, you rap, let me hear it. No, it wasn't like that. It was like, oh, you think you rap, you know, like, well, rap then, you know. So, or you're challenged by another rapper because you say you rap, you know. And that's how it was with us. Like, you know, if you rap, like there wasn't a battle rapper and a rapper. Like you were a battle rapper because you rapped, because you might have to battle because you said you rapped. That was how life worked. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't no hiding behind the studio type of situation where, so I wanted to figure out a way to replicate that experience, even if it wasn't going to be the organic way in which we came up. It's a way that still gives you that same challenging aspect to validate you and vet you as a artist. It's one of those things, like people say Richmond is cliquish. I don't think it's cliquish. I think it's just very proximity based. You know, if you notice certain artists from certain backgrounds in certain neighborhoods make a certain kind of music for that particular neighborhood, that neighborhood will lift them up to a higher viewpoint than the hip hop community would, because the hip hop community in Richmond is not as big of a influence on the masses as that particular neighborhood might be. And I say neighborhood or a side, it could be like somebody from the South Side, you know, really makes a record that resonates with a certain demographic in that part of the city, and that record, one record, lifts them to a higher place. You know what I mean? So you got those artists. F&F Chop right now is real hot. You know, going back in time, you look like a person like a Red Rum. You know, it's like, you know, Junie Mac, the Booty Bounce record. There's like there's been a lot of records that have gone beyond just Richmond or beyond just the hip hop scene in Richmond. But I just think it's you know, all of it is cultural. It's like, you know, there's different layers to the culture. Richmond is also not one. People always talk about this. Richmond is not one sound. Richmond is not one look. It's not one accent. It's not one style of dress. It's not one type of going out at night. You know, it's not any of this. You know what I'm saying? There's so many layers to the people in Richmond. That's why there's so many layers to the music in Richmond. So with that being said, my music is going to resonate with a certain core of people. You know, F&F Chop's records are going to resonate with another core of people. You know what I'm saying? And so on and so forth. Nicholas F. And, you know, so it's like, and I often hear this too, like, well, why don't this side or this group of people collaborate with this group of people or mesh your fans. It's not really how things work in the world. Like it's not, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't just, that's not how it works. You know, if it worked like that, we wouldn't have to force it. It would just happen, right? Yeah. If you look at the industry, everybody's not, and I mean, you have certain artists that can bring people together. Like you have Kanye who could bring different styles together and whatever. You got Drake who can bring different styles together. But for the most part, these different subgenres work within their own worlds. You know what I mean? Like it's not a whole lot of mixing going on because the styles of music are the styles of music. And in Richmond, it's going to be the same thing. It's not a chosen, like, oh, I don't like them, they do this type of music, or they don't like us because we do it. That's not really what it is. It's just everybody's in their own worlds. Like, you got to think, the different styles of music typically go with different lifestyles as well. You know what I'm saying? So as you're operating in your lifestyle and in your environment, I'm operating in my lifestyle and my environment. That's just the result of it. I make a certain kind of music, you make a certain kind of music. Your music resonates with certain people, my music resonates with certain people. You know what I mean? So it's really just that.
I think you're spot on about like there not being a sound or a style. And so how do you market something that's so there's such a wide variety of things?
That's the challenge in Richmond, is that what do you say is Richmond sound, and who do you market to outside of Richmond, right?
It's Richmond, trust me, it's good.
But that's it. But you know what, the thing about it is, I think if we can get past this idea of Richmond having or not having a particular sound, and we understand, like, we're in the age of the internet. Regional sounds are like almost becoming non-existent at this point. Every artist from Atlanta doesn't sound like artists from Atlanta 10 years ago. Every artist from New York definitely does not sound like artists from New York 10 years ago. The cool thing about Richmond, though, is that we naturally have that ambiguity in style. It's a natural thing. It's not we looking at Houston and want to mess with their sound, or we're looking at this one and wanting to mess with their sound. And it's not really that. It's really, we've naturally been influenced by the North and naturally influenced by the South because we are smack dab in the middle of the Mason-Dixon line. So the influence is just genuine, because there's a lot of people that have moved here from New York, myself included. There's people that have moved from the further south, and that's really what makes Richmond's body of folk, right? So we've always had these diverse sounds. So now that everyone else has diverse sounds, and the whole map is just mixed up and moshed up and influenced by each other, I feel like for us, we should be able to, we are a better example of that than anywhere else. And that should be our strong point, because you can get natural artists that sound like me. You can get natural artists that sound like, see what I'm saying? There's all these different sounds like that are pure. They're not contrived, you know what I mean? But they're all still from Richmond. So I think if that would be embraced, the fact that we do have so many different sounds naturally, we'd actually flourish more than a lot of other cities.
Yeah, we're like the beta test of converging sounds. We've been doing it for a while.
We've been doing it long, before, and also creating sounds. Neptunes, Timbaland. You know what I'm saying? Missy, D'Angelo. There was no such thing as neo soul before D'Angelo. So we just have to lean on our strong points instead of looking at our strong points as negatives.
I'm Alexander and this is Garrett.
I'm Garrett.
We're honestly smoked.
We found out we lived across the street from each other in college, and we were always cooking stuff in the backyard when jerky came into play. and I had a recipe that I had messed around with. We went in, you know, that top spice, you can see it is bold. There's a lot of minced garlic, there's black pepper, there's smoked paprika, there's cayenne, there's garlic. There's all these great things in there that you just won't know. It's so textural and so vibrant, and then you bite into it and it's like boom, and it just lights you up.
And not to be cliche, but we made our product with love. We started this because we both ate a lot of beef jerky. We'd go to the grocery store.
And we still do.
And we, of course we still do.
Shout out Three Notch Brewing.
We're not brewing.
Collab House and Scott's Edition, our Who Smoked All the Porter recipe that was a companion beer to the Mild Child Jerky. And we were gonna try to take that and rummage that into an awesome little holiday flavor for y'all.
If you type in here RVA, we haven't made this promo code yet, but it will be live by the time this is.
Yeah, you are in the future and this promo code is now live.
Exactly.
So if you use promo code
RVA, you will get
RVA.
25% off your entire order.
Talk about like, I want to talk about your last album, All Art Ain't Pretty, because you talk a lot about the creative process in that project, kind of like, you know, putting in the time to really like focus on your craft and work, you know, and being true to like your art. And you set the tone. I want to talk about like how you put the whole thing together too, but you set the tone from the very beginning with the intro. And the quote is, "An artist's duty is to reflect the times." Mm-hmm. And I feel like that really set the tone for the rest of the album. Tell me about like your moment of reflection in these times and kind of your thought process while you were making this record.
Well, I had started the record at the end of 2019, like December. And I had just worked on a few of the records. I didn't have like an end game particularly as to how exactly that album was supposed to, what the story was per se. As the album was released in the summer of 2020, obviously there was a lot going on. We were in the midst of a pandemic, George Floyd, the protests, everything that was going on, the monument. And at the time when all of this was going on, I felt a pressure to complete the album. At that moment, I felt an urgency to complete the album in this, like I needed to catch lightning in a bottle. I needed to document what was my experience. Me as an artist, I feel that basically all I'm doing is expressing the human experience from my perspective, you know, so I felt like this was a time that needed to be captured. So the very first day that the monument started to become repurposed, I linked up with Dion from Till Infinity Multimedia, my photographer, and we went and took pictures on the monument, and that ended up being the album cover, which is why, you know, if you look at that picture, there's not the full coverage of graffiti all over the monument. There's just like, you can still read the words,
it's
right?
Sparse.
You know what I mean? It's sparse. So like, that was literally like the very first day after it happened. I was like, yo, I got to get down there and see that. But yo, come meet me. We're gonna go take pictures. So I went, you know, we took the pictures, and I just kind of went into hyper speed with finishing the album. I had just lost my uncle to COVID. I just needed to capture all of my emotions in that particular time. And that's kind of how that album became formed and how it sounds so specific to, you know, when it was released.
It does. It fits a moment. And one of those songs is Rumors of War. Was that something that was done as you were like rushing to finish it up, or had you had that done?
No, Rumors of War was the first record that I had done. I did that around the time that the Candy Wiley sculpture was created, or was unveiled, I should say.
It took a minute to get unveiled, didn't it?
Yeah,
Got
right.
stuck.
So that was actually done in the end of 2019, that particular record. The records towards the end of the album, Law and Order, Unity, basically like that last 5 or 6 records were the ones that were done really quickly towards the end of the wrapping up of that particular album.
In this album, speaking to that moment, did that have anything to do with why you were chosen to be like the main figure in the Mending Walls project?
No. A record that I did started out as a poem and then turned into a record that was on Jesus Never Wore a Suit called When 16 Ain't Enough. That particular poem that came out, I really did that for Poetry Slam in like 2000, I want to say like 16, something like that. And then I'm having a hard time remembering what year Jesus Never Wore a Suit was released, but it was a couple of years after that. And that particular record specifically was kind of the catalyst of me being the focal point of that mural. But it was also just my general stance musically and like publicly on those matters in addition to that particular record.
What do you feel when you look at that mural?
It's always a very interesting question. Like, I was asked that when it was first done, and I'm standing there looking at it, and I didn't have an answer then. I don't really have an answer now. I feel a sense of pride for sure. I feel honored to be among those names. I feel like the focal point of that mural is the names, not my face. I feel like my face is just and my hands are just to signify where we stand in all of this currently. So there's these names of all of these slain people by police, and this is where we still happen to be among this. This is not over. My hands are still up. I'm still asking for grace in this position. I'm still asking for mercy, essentially, which is sad because one human being should not have to ask for mercy from another human being.
A vest and a cape just to make it to 17, cause 16 ain't enough. We scream justice or else. Every week they call our bluff. God help us.
The people make it about rap. They make it about my stature and whether or not I'm worthy or should someone else be, or I'm not worthy. I don't believe a living human being should need to be able to go see themselves on a wall. I do feel like that's reserved for the deceased, the honored deceased, right? That's how it always has been. It's something that has become, and I think it's beautiful that we are celebrating people while we're still alive. I think that's beautiful. Don't get that twisted. But what I'm saying is, for a person to say they deserve it, like there's nothing that I could do while I'm walking around on earth. I could be as accomplished as Jay-Z, and I still would not be like, yo, they need to put my face on a wall, yo. You know what I'm saying? Like, I still wouldn't be saying that. That still wouldn't register to me as something to say. You know what I'm saying? So when I hear people say that or say that they aspire for that, I'm just like, you kind of missing it. Like, what I do know that is that you inspired art inspires art, right? So one artist inspired another artist. Like, I make music. I inspired someone that paints and draws to paint me on a wall. That's it. Somehow I inspired them to do that. That's beautiful. They might have decided to paint me on a shoebox or draw my name on a bathroom stall or something. You understand what I'm saying? Like
their medium
happens to be murals. So that's what they did, or it could have been a sculpture, or, it could be anything. It could be an interview, right? It's all what you invoke in other people. And I think people miss that point. It's like people are asking me genuinely, like, how do you think I could get to that point? And I'm like, move people, move someone, move someone. It doesn't even, like, this is what I'm saying, like I just said, there's still a million people in Richmond that don't know who I am, right? So I didn't move everyone. I moved one person. I may have moved more than one, but what I'm saying in this particular instance, I moved Nils Westergaard, and that's it. I didn't pay Nils Westergaard. I didn't ask Nils Westergaard. I didn't buddy up to Nils Westergaard. I inspired him. So it's, that's, as an artist, your focus should be to move people. It should be to inspire people. It should be to motivate people. However that comes back to you is how it comes back to you. Could be in the form of a mural, could be in the form of a record deal, could be in the form of a $1 million check. It could be in the form of, who knows? You know what I'm saying?
Mamas,
it could be, it could be anything, right? It could be anything. But the whole point is, have your mind set correctly on what your goal is, and your goal can't be self-edification. Let me not say edification. Edification is great. It can't be self-appreciation. It can't be, remove the ego, remove the narcissism from it, and get to a more pure place, and that will more than likely help you move someone in a way that will honor you someday. It's about legacy at the end of the day, for me.
Yeah. Who the fuck they saying they want it with when they saying they wanted it? They ain't say what they wanted it. They don't really want war with it. I'm pulling the sword, I'm flipping the coin with it. I'm really enjoying this. No, I'm really annoyed with it. No, I'm really just bored with it. Done with it. Rather give something from my core. I ain't got enough, baby. I ain't got enough. 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 I ain't got enough, baby. I don't know what you came here for, but I know what I came here for, and I know that I ain't got enough, baby. I ain't got enough. I ain't got enough. I ain't got enough.
You got to tell me a little bit about Mama Joe's collection clothing. I mean, clearly I got some on. I'm a
Yes.
big fan. You got some
Awesome.
on. Where did this idea come from? Like, how did you get started, bro?
Well, it also kind of goes back to All Art Ain't Pretty. When I was finishing that album up, if you listen to it, there's I don't even call them skits because they're not skits. They're conversations, recorded conversations that I had with my mom where I'm talking her through her frustrations, through her artistic process, and some of the difficulties that she's having with being able to get her vision out, and just encouraging her and giving her a different perspective on her artistic approach. And I knew that those were going to be very powerful pieces of the album, but also those are just very small glimmers of the daily types of conversations I had with my mom, trying to encourage her to do her art. And for me, that was still an ongoing fight. Like, how do I figure out how to get her to appreciate her art the way other people do, or the way that I do, or how can I get her to understand that she is very talented and her art can be really impactful to the world. So I would always look for these opportunities, whether it would be to do, an art showing as part of a show, or bringing her to Tuesday Verses and letting her bring her art and, and speak to the people and sell art there. Had, other websites and things where I displayed her art over the years. So I would always look for these different things. And one of the times when my mom was in a physical rehab place, I had used a vendor that I used to make some of my clothes make a pair of socks with her art on it. And that was like the first piece, and she was like blown away by that, and it really helped her like through, you know, that particular process. And I think I made like one other thing, like a hoodie, but it wasn't how these are. It was, you know, just like on the front. I hadn't really figured it out yet. And then, you know, I was like, I'm really gonna get into this. I'm really gonna get into this at some point. But I'm not like, I do clothing and merch, and you know, I got Richmond's Own and stuff like that, but I wouldn't consider myself like some like huge like knowledgeable fashion person to where I would have thought that we would be at this point, right? But I think, you know, somebody that I know was like, man, you know, you really should, you know, put your mom's art on like clothes or something. And I'm like, or they wanted to figure out how to do it. Like, and I was like, in my mind, I'm like, this is something that I know that I'm supposed to do. And before I can let anyone else do it, I need to do it, right? So I just started like really like sitting down at nights and just working on designs. And I started to figure out that I was pretty good at it, and I was getting excited about these different pieces. It was like writing verses. So it was like, I'd be like, oh, and I'd tell my fiance at the time, my wife now, like, yo, come take a look at this, you know, like, what you think of this shirt, or what do you think of this bathing suit? And I'm like, I'm making bathing suits, I'm making dresses, like, this is so crazy. But it was like, the stuff was coming out really good. So, but I knew if I was gonna release it, it had to be like right, you know, the website, the postings, everything had to be legit, like it had to be right. So I really kind of dedicated myself to it for like a month before the album came out. I released the album on one day and I released the line the next day, and then it like really like kind of like took a life of its own. Like immediately people were supporting it. And it's been kind of a ride since. I mean, it's, you know, it has its ebbs and flows as far as like people buying stuff and everything, but as far as people appreciating it, that's constantly taking an upward swing. And, you know, I just, now, you know, my mom is passed now, and for me, it's just like, what I was most proud about it, in addition to just, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It really motivated her to make more art. She made a lot more art and art more consistently. She was able to see her art in a fashion show for RV Fashion Week, and just to be there and get her, you know, a round of applause and her flowers was like amazing to me. You know, so unfortunately didn't get to you know, bought a new house and wanted to, you know, give her the garage as her art studio. Didn't quite get to that particular point to see where her journey was going to go from there. But I was able to create a legacy for my mom's art and for her, and, you know, that'll continue to live on, and that's going to continue to grow. And, you know, so I have a renewed inspiration and motivation to make sure that, you know, Mama Joe's collection is even bigger than it ever has been or could think of it being. So, yeah.
That's really beautiful. I found myself identifying like a lot with your mom in those like skits or those conversations, you know, because at one point she's talking about the art that she makes versus the art that it looks real, like the photogenic. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, like portrait
real life. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But like, you know, her style versus this, and she kept calling her style weird.
Right.
And I really appreciated that you kind of step in as like this conscious moment. You're just like, look, it's just what you do. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not weird. Like, you can't do that because you're not supposed to be doing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And what was your process kind of finding out that lesson? Like, how did you find out, all right, this is what I do. I need to focus on this.
That's gems right there, yeah.
I think for me, it was, you know, in hip hop, I hate to continue to harken back to a different day, but, you know, when I was coming up, we talk about this a lot, me and Mike, you know, you had to have your own style. You had to, stand out. Like that was like part of it. Like if you wanted to be in it, you had to be, this is you and this is what you bring, and it was like collectively this is what it all was. It wasn't like a million people that sounded the same. Like now it's like everybody just, not everybody, but you have a bunch of artists that sound like this, you have a bunch of artists that sound like that, a bunch of artists that sound like that, it's like, and they don't even try to make it different or differentiate at all. The only differentiation that people try to make now between one another is like how far they're willing to like exploit themselves on the internet. It's like I'll look crazy like this, but I still make music that sounds just like this guy. You know what I'm saying? But I'm willing to do this craziness. You know what I'm saying? Right, like that's kind of how people set themselves apart now.
It's
like
the
how,
same book
how
with a
can
new
you,
cover.
Yeah, how can you go viral, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's not everyone. I mean, that's what's like, oh no, there's a ton of talented people right now doing dope original things. You know what I'm saying? But there's also a million clones as well. Yeah. And that's just not how things work. So I mean, that in and of itself was a lesson that I learned coming into it. For my mom, it was more like how I viewed it was, I'm drawn to your art because of how unpolished it is, how off kilter it is, how it seems like it comes from like either your soul or like some deep place in your mind. Like you've seen all of these things, and then when you're sitting down with your materials, you somehow spill out all of like a random, it's like and that just came from like over here somewhere, and then this one like came from, it's like this, where did this like Chinese inspired, African inspired figures coincide into like this other world that you created, and like then you threw an ocean on it. It's like, but you can tell it has a focus. It's not just, it's like savant stuff. Like you're really just kind of like zoning in and like, this is what came from it. That's different than, me saying I've technically learned how to graph a train and make a train look exactly like a train. And, like that's great. That's a talent, but that can be taught. There's books you can buy, you can go to classes, they can teach you. No one can teach you how to make what my mom made, and for it to feel to people how it felt, you know what I'm saying? So I wanted to get her to understand that, like that's, yes, it's abstract. No, it's not. It's technically sound, but it's what art is. Art is an expression. Like I said, it's a human expression, and like you're doing that in its purest way. Like, so don't feel like you have to tinker with that or that you have to compete with what you see, because I know people that want to buy that and they want to put that on their wall, but they don't want to buy a picture of a train and put that on their wall. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to like be like a train collector to want to put a train.
Don't hate on train collectors.
Nothing's wrong with train collectors. I'm not saying that.
I'm just messing with you.
I'm just saying there's a lane for everyone, and you know what I'm saying. And it's not to take away from anyone that does portrait artistry. That is an amazing gift. Hyper realistic art is an amazing gift. I'm just saying that there's room for both.
Yeah,
so it's
and you should appreciate what you do and your contribution. No, I got it. You hate trains. I'm with it. You write songs, you make songs, but you also go out there and embarrass people in battle raps. I watched a bunch of your old videos just to kind of do my research. And what I like about you is, so here's my beef. This is my beef with battle raps, is most times you just got people talking about how they're gonna hurt each other. But what I like about you is you get into people's psyches. There was one, I don't remember who it was, but you were battling a dude, and he kept talking about how you were bald. But he was bald.
Right.
Yeah.
And like
Right-handed.
you like your opening line, I don't remember what it was, but you flipped it on him. You were like, "It's funny how the one thing you got to say about me is this." You know what I mean? Like it
And
was.
I think you took your head off too.
Yeah. That was, I was saying, I think the line was, I can't remember the line exactly, but it was like, the one thing that I was like, we don't have anything in common except for the fact that we're both bald. And that seems to be the main thing that you have to say about me. So it makes me feel like you don't like yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because that's something about yourself that we have in common, and you're talking bad about it. So I feel like that's an insecurity on your part. That's just how I viewed it. It's like, why would you be saying this like it's a negative thing when you deal with the same thing, So it's like, but yeah, now I mean that's, for me, I think that's what, battle rap is. It's like, it is, getting into each other's psyche and, kind of finding out each opponent's thumbscrew. Whether that be something that's publicly visible, or it's your job to make it visible, what their thumbscrew is. That's your job.
How far are you willing to press on that thumbscrew? Is there a line for you?
Oh, there's plenty of, there's lines for me. It's a lot of lines I won't cross. I've had plenty of dirt on opponents. People give me things to, material that I could use, or things I just happen to know, about a particular person, and just choose not to go there. Like, and that's not knocking anyone who does. I enjoy all the weaponry that comes along with battle rap. That's what we're in it for, right? The risks when you get involved. It's just, for me, it's just certain energy I don't necessarily need. Like, I don't need certain energy, what I'm saying, on me. It's like,
Yeah, I feel it.
If I was in a different space in my life, sometimes maybe I'll cross lines that, that I won't cross today. Like, if I was younger, it'd probably be different. You know what I mean? But like, at my age and my lifestyle, I don't need to get dirty, you know what I'm saying, with people necessarily. But at the same time, it all depends on I'll be prepared. Like, I'll hold something. I've had lines, I had lines in that particular battle that I was putting in my back pocket, because I thought that was like the only battle that I had with somebody where we genuinely didn't like each other.
Oh, really?
So
if you're prepared to go nuclear.
Yeah, like if you're gonna, cause when you know somebody doesn't like you and they're mad petty, you don't know what extent they'll go to, whether that is the truth or a lie, right? It's like, so for me, it's like, depending upon who it is. I'm not saying this to this particular person. I'm cool. Sure. We're cool now, but like, for some people, it's like, I'm cool. I'm solid. I know you don't have nothing to expose me about that's true, but I'll still feel like, as long as you don't lie on me, I won't tell the truth about you, type of thing. Because I'm not going to lie on you. That's another line. I'm not going to make up no angle or no story about you to get ahead in a battle. But if I can confirm what I know to be true, and you tell a lie on me, then depending on that lie, we might have to tell the truth.
It actually started with my mom. Like, I went grocery shopping with her and was starting to see all of the options that are out there. I just was like, I can make all kinds of pretzels. I would come up with a bunch of cravings and then start selling them at work. Like, I spent a lot of time making sure every detail is perfect. I just knew whatever was gonna come out was gonna be real, because I live and breathe this Handle creations. It was really important for us to be able to provide something for our vegan community, gluten-free community, our sugar-free community. The pretzels are like pretzel ladies. The cake pops are lady cakes. So just kind of trying to pour into that feminine energy and that, you know, I can have kids and still own my own business. Like, I can do it all.
I'm a dual role in battle rap. I'm a battler, but I'm a league owner as well, and I'm doing more league owning than battling these last couple of years. So,
Do you do one or the other at events, or have you ever done both?
every battle that I've ever had, except for URL, I've ran the event, unfortunately. And I didn't even, and that's from the first time I battled and the first time I did a battle event. And I didn't realize how much stress that I was putting on myself and how much extra work that I was putting on myself by doing dual roles every single time until I was battling for URL. And I was like, you mean I just gotta show up and rap? Oh, this is a lot easier. Like, in performances, they reflected as such. So yeah, I feel for any battler / league owners. I always know the weight that comes with trying to balance all of that, because preparing for a battle is like no other performance preparation. It is way more grueling, way more involved, way more cumbersome. It's hell, actually.
Like, how much research are you doing for?
It's not so much about the research, but it can be. And when I say research, it may not be like digging up dirt, but it might be like studying your opponent, like, their flaws, like how their battles, depends on your opponent. Like, when I battled JC, he's got like 50 battles, bro. Like, but with me being like a person that doesn't want to repeat anything that anyone else said, I'm watching like all of them. So I'm taking stuff out because, oh, he said that, and oh, this person said that. So it's like that type of thing. I kind of overthought it. I overdid it. When I look at my book back at that performance, I feel like I overdid it. I overwrote. I did too much. But it's not so much the research as it is the memorization. You're thinking 9 minutes worth of material, 3-minute rounds, typically, if not more. And I'm kind of long-winded, so sometimes I have like 3 5-minute rounds. That's 15 minutes of content that you cannot slip up, stumble, say something wrong. You can't double it back. You can't afford to slip up, and you have performance that's going along in it. You have to have it down to the point where you can say it with conviction.
Plus, you got to say it. You got to start over because the crowd
Right,
reaction.
you have to be able to continue on with crowd reaction and pausing and all of that. So you have to know it. And that becomes so consuming, especially like if you got a job and you got a family and you got things that you have to, other responsibilities other than just battle rapping. Like, you're in the shower. Every time you're in the shower, you're reciting rhymes. Every time there's a quiet moment, you're doing it. You're forcing your girl to sit in the room and listen to you go over these rounds every night. You know what I mean? Like, anytime that you're not talking to someone else, you're rapping. If you're walking through the grocery store, you're rapping. And it's like you're constantly doing this, and you can't get comfortable. You can't say, oh, I know it. It's a week out. I know it, because you think you had it then, but then you went 3 or 4 days, 2 days, whatever, without saying it. Now you're in the battle and you think you still got it. And now it only takes you to miss one word to throw the whole thing off. And now people are like, oh, you choked. It's like everything that you wrote, everything that you did is down the drain because you did not memorize it to a T. So for me, if I can't spit it double time, I don't know it. Like, I have to be able to rap it like Twister to be able to say I know it. If I don't do that, then I still got work to do. And I've gone in with feeling like I had work to do, and some performances are better than others.
Don't ask me for papers. No more.
I got one more question.
Go for it, bro.
Or last one. All right, your advice to MCs who are maybe afraid of jumping in the cipher, you know, or just saying that's not for me, you know.
It depends, right? I don't judge anybody for what they choose to, you know, get into or what they choose not to get into. Like, what's not for you, it's not for you. However, it also depends upon why they're saying that. You know what I'm saying? You have some people that are like, especially younger guys that ain't really been around. Like, if you've been around, you do what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? Because you done already figured yourself out. You know what I'm saying? But it's a lot of young artists that really haven't figured anything out. And they're like, oh, no, that ain't for me. I'm an artist. I make songs. And it's like, you don't really make songs that well. You know, it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't really like, you know, and the reason why you don't make songs that well is because you have not taken yourself through any sort of, you haven't walked through any fire, you know what I'm saying, as an artist. And if you take some time to do this, get into this process, you'll find that you'll be challenging yourself as a writer, challenging yourself as a performer, as a stage performer, in ways that you've never had to stretch yourself. And in that process, you'll find that okay, I'm having to write these cipher raps, and they're not songs, they're not, you know, they're not hooks, they're not, but they're forcing me to do something I'm uncomfortable at, and it's forcing me to use literary devices that I haven't found that I needed to use in the music I've been making, whether it be metaphors or wordplay or song, like rhyme structures, or, you know, punchlines. These different things that are designed to invoke a reaction from an audience member. Keep in mind, if you can make an audience react to something that you wrote, that is an accomplishment, like in writing, and it's a transferable skill. You know, it's not just for the cipher, you know, it's not just for the competition. It's also teaching you how to write moving lyrics. And that can be applied to now if you want to write a song and you're writing about your life, those same literary devices and practices that you learned in writing and the cipher can be applied to that music. So now your music has deeper elements. That's why it's like, even down to like trap rappers or whatever, it's like, if you can find a really lyrical version of a person that can do that type of music, that can know when to pull back on some of the more technical things and when to add them, those are going to be the artists that have the most longevity even in that field, because those are the ones that are going to be able to put substance into it, and they're going to be able to they're going to be able to say different things. Like, every song is not going to be the same from them, because they can do so many different things with their writing. You know what I'm saying? Even though they have a sound that's popular. Yeah. So then it's like, oh, well, he has everything, because he can write hooks, and he's got a certain type of energy, a certain kind of swag. But then when I really listen, he's saying something. So then it's like an artist like myself who might only, like, not might only, but is more centered around the writing. When I'm listening to you, I'm like, oh, I see why y'all like him. You know what I'm saying? Because he does that, but he also does this. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not off limits for anybody or any style. Anyone can learn from this environment. It's just a matter of putting yourself in it, and do you want to go through these? It's like you know, like a basic training. There's no man would come out of basic training without some additional skills, right? I don't care what your job. You may not be a soldier in life. You may be a computer engineer, right? For the rest of your life. Yeah. Well, think about it. Yeah. Everyone that goes into the army has a different job. They're not all picking up guns and shooting them. Some are going to be chefs. Some are going to be tech people. Some are going to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all kinds of different jobs, but they all go through basic training.
Right.
They all go through basic training because there's certain elements that you need, period, if you're going to be in the Army. You know what I'm saying? So no matter what your style is, no matter what your goal is in music, going through this process will benefit you if you apply yourself. If you try to reach the highest pinnacle of this platform, you will come out of it a better artist. I don't care if you ever decide to get into a rap battle or a cypher again in your life. It's something that you're going to take from it that's going to carry you through. And I mean, there's a lot of artists that come on our stage, they got music videos out, they got albums out, they get on our stage and it's the first time they've performed on stage before they'd ever held a microphone. I'd be like, this is the first time you've ever held a microphone, but you got music videos? Like, from my era, that is so backwards. Like, I don't need, like, that blew my mind. Like, I'm like, what? But that's common, though. It's common now. So, but that was the point of creating a platform to begin with, was to kind of, like, reel that back in to where it's like artists can say, okay, wait, maybe I should take a moment to do this first, and then I can focus on my music. And you know, it's a lot. And then the thing is cool is, like, it's not just for the young people. Like, we've had MCs from ages 15 all the way up to 46. So it's like you got artists that used to be into it heavy that are like coming back out and finding a renewed vigor in their artistry and in their desire to make music or just to rap publicly. You know what I'm saying? And it's for them as well. So, nah, it's a beautiful thing.
You got me to come back out. I hadn't rapped in a long time, and I was like, I went to one and I watched this guy do it, and I was like, I'm gonna get up there next time.
Like, and then once you go for it, sometimes it just becomes like addicting.
Oh yeah.
When you get started, you know
I love it.
Like,
I love that.
Yeah.
You know, I love my Jason is definitely one of our repeat MCs, our people that are dedicated to the platform, that are like, I'm not going anywhere, I'm going to be here every single month. And I love that because I get to actually watch them grow and like see every month them get better and do something better. It's like whether it's they're more confident or it's how they're changing their flows up, or like, you know, different little things that you can tell that they were working on for that month. Because it's like what makes this unique, and I'll get off my soapbox, is like it's having to focus on just one verse for a whole month. It's like one verse, one beat, one performance for the whole month. So it's like all your energy is going into, how can I make this one verse as good as possible? How can I memorize it? Then how can I perform it the best? Because I'm gonna have one opportunity to do this right. And that is it's a different sort of focus. It's a different sort of discipline. It's a different sort of like, there's a growth that happens just within each particular month that you do that. You know what I'm saying? So it takes a dedication. It takes, because you can't just, oh, I'm gonna write this verse and you're not going to record it. You gotta memorize it. And it's probably, if you use your time, it's 2 minutes. You know, it's not 16 bars. 16 bars is only 45 seconds. You know what I'm saying? This is like a 32 and some change. Like, you really gotta dedicate yourself to it. So it's cool. It's really good.